When I was small, my mom called me her little confetti maker, and I think that my current work exemplifies that. My name is Bethany Economos. I'm a mixed media artist in Fort Collins. So we moved to Fort Collins in 2020 during COVID. I have really worked on trying to find my place as an artist in Fort Collins, which has been a lot of fun, and I've definitely found it through the museum. I joined the Museum of Art Collective of Artists and found several really great close friends through that. I feel like going back to the tradition of quilt circles or sewing circles, that the traditional handcraft group brings community. And so that's been my sort of lifeline every time I've moved, has been to find that group of like-minded individuals, basically. And so during COVID, I had a really hard time finding that group, and I started to reach for the crafting and sewing even more. That's kind of the impetus for my piece that's in the exhibit. It takes a little bit away from the imposter syndrome to be a part of the Rocky Mountain Triennial. I think almost all artists, if you ask them, they have a little bit of fear of legitimacy. And so to have my work in the museum is kind of like, wow, my work's in the museum. That's very exciting. My piece that's in the Rocky Mountain Triennial is part of a 4-part series that I did during COVID. I think that when we lived in England, I was very influenced by the World War II sayings, make do and mend, keep calm and carry on, the sort of propagandaism. And so as I began to think to myself, what does a stitched COVID look like? What does that crazy little germ look like? And how could I bring that into my art? I found myself thinking about how those sayings were, just telling people like what you should think, what you should feel, keep calm, carry on. And so my pieces are called Keep Calm, Carry On, Make Do, and Mend. And the one that's in the Rocky Mountain Triennial exhibit is Make Do. While I'm not a traditional teacher, I do love to teach people stitching and mending and knitting. If you sit still long enough, I will put knitting needles or sewing needles in your hands and force you to learn. But I think teaching for me is a way of passing on those traditions, and I feel like it's just so important, and it helps me feel like I'm connecting to the community here in Fort Collins.